Oh my God, previewing Dragon Age the Veilguard in a YouTube video. This is a daunting idea right now. Trying to encapsulate this enormous game that BioWare has worked on for 10 years. It is the follow-up to Inquisition, which was our game of the year back in 2014. And I got a good chunk of hands-on time, about 6 or 7 hours at this really cool event that BioWare and EA put on for myself and for journalists all over the world. And we got to check out this game that we've all been waiting for a very long time. And of course, they revealed some gameplay. We got a nice look at this title at Summer Game Fest, and I was really impressed by what I saw there. But nothing can really prepare you for the escapism and the sort of immersion into an alternate reality than sitting down and playing this thing. It is a massive endeavor. It has so much content for you to explore, and it's also a different game than Inquisition is. It's also different from previous Dragon Age titles, and it blends a little bit of gameplay from all of them. And I can tell you that aesthetically, it also uses a much more stylized kind of look to it. It's not as dirty and mucky and messy. There are areas in the game that you're going to go to which are possessed and demonic looking and kind of creepy, and they'll get under your skin like in earlier Dragon Age titles. But for most of this game, it looked a little bit sort of leaning into the animation quality, and that includes the character designs and the incredible character customization, the editor that you've got to build your own character called Rook. You can pick from a bunch of different classes and give yourself a bunch of different styles. I chose Mage, and I also played a little bit as a Rogue. And what you do in this game, like in every Dragon Age game, is you do your best to buddy up with very powerful comrades. And together you can go to battle against all kinds of demonic and possessed creations and try to save as many hapless villagers as you can, because all hell is breaking loose in Thedas, and there are a couple of these gods that have escaped out of the Veil, and they are wreaking havoc. They're trying to take over the land, and you're trying to be heroic and make the right choices, and that's really what this game and every Dragon Age game is about, is making the right choices and the repercussions of said choices, because you've got to really be strategic in your thinking and the alliances that you have. You have to listen to your colleagues. They're going to give you advice. Even in the middle of battle, they'll be giving you advice, but they're also going to have lives of their own and ideas of their own and obsessions of their own, and they're kind of along for the ride with you, but they don't always agree with you. It's just such a multifaceted, interesting, beautifully scripted, passionate work of art, this experience. I haven't played enough of it to kind of give you my overall feeling on it, but I can just see it. It's just emanating in every minute that I spend in this game, and I can't wait to get the full thing and to get lost in the entirety of this adventure. But what I was able to see in my hands-on is that there's a lot of disparity, a lot of variety in the environments, and you are bouncing back and forth into these different environments through these magical mirrors called illuvians, and you've got to go into the crossroads, this kind of section of reality that exists between life and death. And you also have this little sort of base camp called the Lighthouse, where everybody chills for a bit and regroups and sort of plots out the next mission. And this is definitely a game about choosing the order of your missions, and it's not an open world type of experience like Dragon Age Inquisition was, where everything sort of branched off in a bunch of interesting ways. You have a lot of exploration in this game, but it is much more tied to jumping into this mission and coming back to the Lighthouse and figuring out the clues to get you going into the next mission. I liked the structure there, especially for the preview session that I had. It's too soon for me to kind of say if I enjoy the whole experience, but man, I love the scale up. I also loved meeting a lot of the townsfolk along the way and starting to feel for them and their fear and their terror at, all kinds of stuff erupting around them and them being caught up in these mystical wars that were happening. Thought that was really cool. I was also blown away by the visuals. We were running this game on state-of-the-art PCs with NVIDIA cards in there. I'm pretty sure they were all 4090s. Everything was running at beautiful frame rates. I can't tell you what the frame rates were. Easily 60 and above, and lots of gorgeous visual effects as well. The water looks insane in this game, and there's lots of ray tracing and reflections and stuff in here that just takes your breath away. BioWare's done some really great stuff with the Frostbite engine, and it's interesting, right? Because everybody's jumping in Unreal Engine 5, and people are still using Unity out there. And it's cool that EA has sort of kept to to its own engine. Ubisoft has kept to its own engine, and they're getting some incredible work out of it. And this is a gorgeous game, just like Outlaws was a gorgeous game. But this is a very different aesthetic than I think a lot of diehards and lifers of Dragon Age experiences might have been prepared for. But I don't know, man. I loved the framework. I loved the visual storytelling. I also like that because they went in this stylized direction, to me, it evokes this idea that this is a game that is going to have some permanence to it, you know? I mean, this is not only a game built on the foundation of all the learnings of the previous Dragon Age titles, but I think there was a real mature sensibility that they didn't need to approach photorealism with its character design and its craftsmanship. And because they didn't, this is a game that's going to look amazing in 2034 as well, because it's got that kind of rich animation look to it, like an animated film look to it, which I really like. And there's some startling visual effects and magic effects, of course. There's lots of cooperative elements in there where you're combining magic spells and defeating demons and doing all kinds of stuff together, and the screen just lights up with all of these beautiful glows and explosions. But then there are also lots of quieter moments and lots of interesting dialogue trees and discussions that you're going to get into with all of the different colleagues that you have. And that assortment of different characters is just a standout feature of Dragon Age. You're going to see familiar characters, you're going to add new ones into your party, and I'll get into all of that in a little bit more detail, but I'm going to try my best not to spoil stuff here and spoil stuff when I review it as well. This is one of those games that you want to sit back and experience for yourself. And it's also, like I think a lot of Dragon Age titles in the past, it's one of those replayable games where you can try things differently, take a different class, and be a little bit more sardonic and a little bit more shrewd with the way that you make your choices on your second play, or be a little bit more forthright, you know, and a little bit more righteous in the way that you play. BioWare are masters at this kind of thing, and I don't know, I think this is, from what I've played so far, this game is looking phenomenal. It's looking like it's going to be in the conversation for the best of the year, and I can't wait to play the full thing. But one thing I was also able to do at the preview event for this game was talk to a couple of the people that helped make this one.
My name is Matt Rhodes. I'm the art director on Dragon Age the Veilguard.
Matt, what are we seeing today? What's everybody getting their hands on with today?
Well, it's been cool. It's after too long, people finally get to begin to play Dragon Age the Veilguard, the continuing story of the Dragon Age series. I've had, thankfully, the opportunity to be involved in every Dragon Age game to some capacity, and so it's really cool to be able to take it into this next phase. The story continues. This time around, we're going off the map. There's all these places that have only ever been hinted at, but we get to just totally geek out, be world builders, and bring these places to life that people have only read codex entries or seen little snippets of, and it's really neat to be able to do that.
One of the things that I've noticed playing the game is just how quickly the game moves, and how quickly you can whip from piece to piece to piece.
Yeah.
That speaks to me like this game is just absolutely enormous, and you guys have no issues about people racing through it if they want to.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the cool things about this is that because we are geeking out about fleshing out the world, we really were able to do it in this focused way where there's too many places we all wanted to see, but we were able to actually find a way to do it. You know, you want to see Minrathous, you want to see Antiva, you want to see Wysop Fortress, you want to see the Necropolis, and because of our focused approach to missions, you're able to go from place to place to place to get really curated, story-focused, awesome experiences still, and then go and explore and check it out and go back to your favorites and see how things go back and forth. There's too much new stuff. I'm hoping people are able to just go in and be kind of surprised and delighted that we've done as much as we have.
You're using the Frostbite engine again
Yes.
for the game, but obviously it's really powerful and it's really advanced. It's nice to see these different engines out there, not just Unreal, not just Unity. What did using this Frostbite engine sort of allow for you guys? How much have you learned using it,
Sure.
and what are we seeing here that we've never seen before with this engine?
I mean, that's a great question. Yeah, the Frostbite engine, it's a really powerful tool. It's something that just, and especially we've had some time with it. We've had some projects where we've learned a lot. We've grown, we've figured things out. And within EA, the other studios that are using the Frostbite engine, there's been this really great collaboration. And you know, every time someone achieves a victory or figures out some cool new technique, there's a lot of sharing that goes between it. And so with this game, what we really tried to do as well, I mean, from an art direction standpoint even, is like we know there are things that it handles very, very well. For instance, like it's a beautiful lighting engine. And so we tried to look for opportunities to create, the moments where either narratively or even just from a pure exploration standpoint, lighting was really almost like a character in and of itself. Even when it comes to designing the variety of different locations that you visit, we wanted each different area to almost feel like a different genre. So it's like, it's not even just a different tone, it almost feels like you've stepped into almost a different story. And so it becomes this kind of fish out of water experience continually, where you pluck your Zorro assassin out of their beautiful location and drop them into a barbarian story, and just that continual back and forth. And with that, being able to make lighting a strong character into it. So you have the romantic and dimly lit Antiva city, but then you also have a brightly lit coast, and then the necropolis, underlit glowing green flames. And that's one thing that's been a great opportunity, is like let lighting be a character. But then we also have, I've got to throw it in there too, like beautiful reflections in things where, like, again, water is just, it's behaving the way you hope it does, and seeing things reflected in it, that it's still, as someone who's been playing games for years, you're like, is that actually in game? So it's been really neat to see those opportunities.
We're obviously playing on these kick-ass PCs out there. They're beautiful, and I'm curious if the console, PS5, Xbox Series X, are we getting to this fidelity? Is it going to look pretty comparable to what we're playing today?
We've been testing it on these different machines and just pumping it as far as we possibly can. What's been great, like we have so many also options available that are like available just for as far as how things are represented and rendered, and just sort of to scale, making sure this game looks kind of as amazing as possible on as wide a range as possible.
One of the things that I also appreciate with the game is the stylized look of the characters.
Yeah.
It feels very deliberate. It's a great choice because it feels like this is a game that will hold up over time, as opposed to trying to sort of peg photoreal or something.
Yeah. So no, that's great. You're on the right track for sure. I mean, that's exactly right. So again, because I've had the opportunity to work on the entire Dragon Age franchise in various capacities, I've seen that in Origins, that was based on the idea of fantasy paintings. Dragon Age 2 was saying like Northern Renaissance paintings, Kurosawa films. Inquisition was a continuation of that, trying to finish that off. But it was even still, I'd call it almost like a really solid half step. With the Veilguard, we're trying to finish that step. And so it's like, we know that the Dragon Age series is about people. It's about characters. It's about their struggles and successes and victories and all of that. And what we wanted to do is create a visual language that made sure that technology didn't get in the way of those characters. Uncanny Valley, we're all familiar with. It's like leans its head into the screen and says, hey, remember, you're in a video game. So we wanted to take a very intentional step back away from that, so that the characters could shine through and you could just jump right into the world and just enjoy it. And you're right, that's the hope, that we can still portray a very wide range of the human experience, from like the grim and dark and horrific to the joyful and peaceful, and these great quiet moments. And so to create a visual language that allows us that range without getting in the way, that's really the goal.
How much are people going to have to bring to the table when they start this game? Are they going to have to know the lore? Are they going to have to kind of come in knowing how to play a Dragon Age game? Or how are you handling that?
We spent a lot of time on the onboarding of this game, and a lot of focus to make sure that we knew what players were learning. It was very deliberate, very controlled, to make it as accessible for as many players, new players, as we can. We hope that there'll be a ton of new players, and we want to make sure that they have a great time, but also at the same time making sure that everything is accurate and familiar to returning players. So to answer your question, you should be able to enter this either as somebody who's not played a Dragon Age game in a long time, or as a brand new player, or somebody who's played them all recently as well.
That must have been a really tricky balance, trying to find how much narrative and how much storytelling and how many familiar pieces to put in, and the right balance of all of that?
No, absolutely it was. A lot of iterations. One of the advantages of this game was it was playable from start to finish for over a year now, and we've had a lot of people on the team playing and giving us feedback. That allowed us to make sure that everything was making sense, that the narrative threads were complete, we weren't conflicting with ourselves, but also, for example, we weren't introducing Tevinter and Minrathous and Thetis all at the same time.
Right.
We can layer that information for players.
Yeah, that's something that I definitely noticed as well, is this beautiful progression and mechanics sort of being introduced, and you're not laying it all on us right from the very beginning. We get lots and lots of new pieces of gameplay as we go.
It required a bit of a more deliberate approach than what I'm used to personally. Perhaps a lot of other people, it's obvious to them already, but basically not just considering gameplay mechanics that we're introducing to players, but also concepts. The capital letter fantasy terms that we're introducing as well.
Right.
The stakes have to be layered in correctly as well. And the main thing is we want to make a game with a lot of exploration, but exploration is really difficult to swallow for players before they know what they actually want. What are the actual advantages or opportunities in this world? So we want to make sure that we give you the keys to this world after we've taught you what's important.
How do you start a mission design? Is it something that you write like a story about, and then you go in and you think about where the gameplay is going to go, or do you fiddle with mechanics and the level placement and the props and things like that, and then find the story out of that? How do you do it?
Right. It's a hugely collaborative process, and it's one of my favorite parts of the entire process. So the way we've done it is we've started with pods, is what we call them. We'd have an artist, an animator, a writer, a level designer, and oftentimes concept artists, other folks as well. And we would sit together and we'd have an idea of what we want players to learn and what we want them to feel in this mission, but how can we get there? And the idea is they've worked together as a pod and come up with their ideas, and they usually pitch it to directors and stuff. And the next step is we'll take them, put them all together with the rest of the game, make sure that it all fits together or has the best chance to. But really, it's a collaborative process from the ground up that way.
When you're playing the new game, does the team or do members of the team have to ever go back to refresh themselves on classic Dragon Age experiences, like going right back to square one to kind of remember how it feels? And are you always thinking about that lineage and trying to sort of keep it cohesive?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's going to have a different process, but I know for myself there was a lot of re-exploring the old games.
Yep.
I've played them all. I've worked on Inquisition as well as on this one, obviously.
Yep.
And part of my process was watching, a lot of Twitch streams or YouTube videos, but also playing them myself again, drawing back on my memories. But also we have a ton of resources. Our writers are absolute masters of the lore. They know everything. But it's not limited to them either. A lot of our designers really understand this fundamentally really well, and we all help each other out with that. A lot of our QV folks understand it really well. They tell us, they really tell us if we get things wrong, which is pretty great.
There's been this constant evolution in the game design, like the core game design in the Dragon Age games. They're a little different almost every single time up to bat. And I've noticed the speed and the pacing of this game and the combat, everything is really action-packed and accessible. Is that something that you're a little concerned about for maybe the people that like the more strategic, slower-paced Dragon Age game? Or do you think people are just going to groove with the way that this game unfolds? Or do you have a solution for the ones that want to slow down a little bit?
I know for me personally, in the way that I've been playing it, and again, going back to how playable the game has been for over a year now, there's been a lot of iteration and from a hugely varied team, a lot of feedback from players saying, all right, this is what I'm missing. Now that we've made this change and I understand, this is what I want us to try and add back. And we've had a lot of time to iterate. We've had a lot of time to kind of refine the identity and to chisel away what didn't belong.
Yeah.
So as for why we went in this direction, I think other people could do a better answer, but I think that the game very organically shaped itself around the opportunities that presented himself,
right,
just from being able to play it for so many
I mean,
so
it does.
times.
These are big set pieces, and they're crazy villains that you want to just jump into combat with. It's almost like this confluence of the technology and the capabilities and the history of Dragon Age all sort of coming together in a way.
One of the things that I really like and that we've been doing as a team is just kind of throwing together all our ideas, all the things that we wish we could have done on previous games.
Sure.
And a lot of suggestions from the community as well of just, oh, that's a good question they're asking on Reddit. And you know what? I want to know the answer as well. And throwing those in a pot and just seeing like what can we actually do? What are the opportunities? And in a lot of cases, and you'll see some of those today, us trying things and seeing, is anybody going to stop us? And then getting to today and being like, oh shit, sorry.
Okay,
oh no, nobody stopped us.
Yeah.
Look at what we have. What have we done? It's actually pretty cool. So there's a lot of things I'm really excited for you to see in this demo today, but even more things in the game that we don't want to spoil yet.
Yeah, and I guess that's the thing, right? You want the core of it is you want to surprise people.
Yeah.
You don't want people to know what they're getting right out of the box, right?
This gives me a chance to talk about something I'm passionate about, which is the design pillars of this game. The DNA of Dragon Age is player agency, freedom, and choice. That being one of our pillars. The other one being focus this time. For the Veilguard is a focus on things that contribute to the various narratives that we're trying to tell. I think that's important there is making sure they're all varied and that there's a diversity of experiences that you don't know what's coming next. And that can range from what you do in each area, each quest, each mission, but also who wants to come with you. So you'll see some examples today of everybody joining you. There's a huge problem with the world right now, why would everybody not come? We'll show you that, but then we range all the way down to one-on-one, very private opportunities. So there's a variety in experiences that way as well, just to keep you on your toes.
Do you think if I asked a bunch of the team members what is the most surprising thing about Dragon Age the Veilguard, everybody would have a different answer?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think even I'd have a different answer every time you ask me. So there's a lot that surprises me, and honestly, I finished the game all the way through 5 times. Yeah. I've played it and started it many more times. Awesome. Spent thousands of hours probably in character generator. Yeah. But on my latest playthrough, I discovered some new things that surprised me even. So there's a lot of stuff in this game. It's great.
Awesome. What does Dragon Age mean to BioWare?
Dragon Age it's a very beloved IP. A lot of us have been around for many of the past Dragon Age games. Because it's ours, it allows us to tell the stories that we want to tell. It allows us to build the world that we want to. And most importantly, it's an opportunity for us to get excited about stuff. And whatever we get excited about, we can hold on to that, and then we get an opportunity to do that. And that's what Dragon Age has given us.
So there you go. There's my little taste of a hands-on with Dragon Age the Veilguard. It's a massive experience. It's coming out very soon in October, so stay tuned for that. I'll definitely come back with my full review. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.